So I've just stripped down a pallet that I had in the garden, and I've decided I'm going to try and make another outside table. It will be predominantly made out of pallet wood, but I'll hunt around for other bits and bobs to finish the job off. I think I'll maybe make the top and the bottom out of something different. The table is going to be 17 inches square, approximately 22 inches high. It's going to be made purely of frames, and the frames are going to be square, because if you make square frames it's very quick for cutting. All the frames will be glued together in an hourglass shape. The project is predominantly based on the Mitre saw. I've had a look around and I found a few more bits of scrap wood. I think I'm going to make the top out of these two bits. I'm going to start off making 3 frames, one of 17 inches square and 2 of 16 inches square, and then we'll work from there. So what I'm going to do now is to cut the 4 sides, each with a 45-degree mitre, to 17 inches. And to do that I shall use this to accurately set the length and make the cutting a lot quicker. So that's the first 45-degree cut. I'm just sighting down that to make sure it's roughly in the right place, which is there. I've run the piece of wood along and I've put the laser on the pencil mark, and then all I'm going to do now is I'm going to lift this up and I'm going to slide it along until it's touching, which is there. Can you see that that wood there is now resting on the angle to give it to keep it level on the table? And it's also pushed up against the edge there, so you've got a physical stop. If I move there, that's the physical stop. So that's going to make sure that all 4 pieces are cut to the same length. So that's going to be our top. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick this together, and then we'll inlay the centre with wood towards the end. But that's the first frame made. There, so that's glue on all 4 pieces. That's the first frame glued and clamped. So the next thing to do is to cut 2 frames at 16 inches, and that is going to be the start of the base. Now the process will be exactly the same. Due to my lack of frame clamps, what I'm going to do is alternate each mitered frame with a frame that's just butt joints basically, because this overlap over the mitre there will give it a little bit more structural strength. Those frames are 16 inches square, so I'm going to cut 2 of these to 15 inches. That's 2 at 15 inches, and they're 5 and 5/8 together. So I need 2 pieces at 15 inches minus 5 and 5/8, which is 9 and 3/8. So I want 2 pieces at 9 and 3/8. So that's what I'm talking about doing. And I don't think it's going to look as good, but I think it'll be stronger. So that's what I'm going to do. So I've actually glued all the mitre joints, and I've glued this wood on the top of the bottom frame, and now I'm just going to tack it. I've been making progressively smaller frames to make the base of the table, and we're down to a 12-inch frame at the moment. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to make a centre column. So those 4 pieces are going to be the centre column. I've got a good glue line going down all of those pieces of wood, so I know that's going to glue fine. So that's our component parts. We've got the top, these 2, and this central pillar are going to make the frame. I'm going to make a tight frame to fit around the bottom, which will glue onto the base and onto the pillar, and I'll do the same thing at the top, and that'll be what holds it all together. So I need a good strong joint there and there. So I've decided to use this thick stock. So that's the column gluing onto the base. While I'm waiting for this to dry, I've just filled the centre of the topping with offcuts basically, and it's just all mitered together. I'm using the bends to make sure that everything is reasonably flush on the other side, so when it's dry I can flip it over and sand it, and then that'll be the top finished. That's the top frame glued onto the base. Now I've got to glue the rest of the base together. So that's the base assembled, it's just got to dry now. That's the top sanded, and I think that looks pretty good. The top needs to be glued on top of the table. So when I look at that, I think that it looks a bit top heavy. I've decided I'm going to just cut some fillets to go around the centre column to give it the illusion that it's wider than it actually is. And all I've done is cut them to length on the mitre saw. So I've just got to glue everything up, the top and those fillets, and then that's the table constructed. That's a view of the base from underneath, and as you can see, it's just the frame's getting progressively smaller with the centre column just glued in there, and the top is the same apart from the centre column doesn't come up quite as far. That's the top glued on and the fillets. I've filled all the gaps with decorator's caulk because they were just a little bit too rough. I've sanded everything down. Once the decorator's caulk dries, then the plan is to stain and varnish. There we go, that's the table finished. I've stained it with a spirit based stain and then put 3 coats of polyurethane varnish on it, so that's ready to go outside. I really like the way the top turned out, which was basically just infill in the centre with various mitered pieces of wood, and they were just scrap pieces that were left over from the other cuts that I'd made. So I think that works out really well. So that's it, finished. Quite enjoyed doing that. It took way longer to video than it did to actually make the table. I hope you found the video useful. Feel free to subscribe if you should so desire, and thank you for watching.